fun begins right from the first connection you have with your bump. And if that's when your baby kicks and you push the kick back, that is when your communicative interactions start. And that's what, I'm very passionate, as you said, about encouraging that bond, that connection as early as possible, so that we can encourage parents to be attentive and responsive to all the kinds of interactions our babies make, so that we can provide a wonderful platform for enhancing their communications skills, guiding them towards their first words. And the fun has started right back at the first kick, rather than when the first word arrives. There are a few things that you can do to help communication with your bump. The first one is, if your baby kicks or moves, let's go with kicks first. If your baby kicks, then push back where the baby kicks and wait for another kick. And if the next kick arrives, then push back again. And what you're doing there is trying to create a small sort of turn-taking interaction, which is reminiscent of when the baby's born, a kind of turn-taking conversation where the baby will make a movement and you will react to that movement by saying, "Oh, you're a tired baby," or the baby might make a noise and you'll be saying, "Are you telling me a lovely story?" Which is all turn-taking, building conversational skills for language development. Providing auditory fitness and we might say brain gym as well, working on building your baby's receptiveness to sound and language in their environment is very important to establish it as early as possible, basically. The other things that you can do are read to your bump and sort of be touching and connecting with your bump at the same time as you're reading. Lots of mums connect with their bump while they're in the bath. Strangely, when your body is still, the baby becomes more active, and that is often when you're in the bath. So it's a very good opportunity to have a go at communicating with your bump. Or you can sing songs. There are two songs that I would recommend. One is to the tune of Skip to My Lou, which is rub, rub, rub your bump, rub, rub, rub your bump, or push, push, push my bump, push, push, push my bump. And the second one is, this is the way I rub my bump, rub my bump, rub my bump. This is the way I rub my bump on a cold and frosty morning. Or hopefully not a cold and frosty morning, but you get the gist. Most parents know that they need to communicate with their bump, but it can be very difficult to know what to say. And if you're finding it difficult to know what to say, then just tell them about what's happened in your day. When I used to read to my bump, I found that a bit of a strange thing to do. So I would tend to try and read out a paragraph of my book and then read a paragraph to myself and try and listen or feel to see if there was any difference in the way that the baby communicated with me, whether I was reading out loud or reading quietly. I think the thing is about reading is if you can make some lovely intonation patterns as you read, your baby is, well, particularly after birth, but they're pre-programmed to be attracted to listening to voices of varied intonation patterns. So if you can, put on your best sing-songy, styly voice, and that will help your child to listen to you and therefore help you to engage with your baby. If you've got a particular nursery rhyme that you like to sing, or if you've got other children that you know like a particular song, that's a good thing to do, to sing repetitive songs with very tuneful melodies. There is some research to suggest that tunes that babies listen to while they're in the womb, if they're replayed to the baby once they're in our own environment, they calm to the tune that they're already familiar to. So it's a very good idea to sing familiar songs both when you're pregnant and when you've got a newborn. The wonderful thing about nursery rhymes is that the tune is very catchy. Often, you know, these varied intonation patterns. The words are very repetitive, which hook children into the language. And often the songs have some element of participation. That could be an action that you're trying to copy, or an element of anticipation, like pop goes the weasel or something. You're waiting for the child to communicate with you as you're singing the song. So to incorporate nursery rhymes into your baby's life is a very good idea. A really nice way to incorporate a sibling into a pregnancy is perhaps firstly reading a book about what it's going to be like to have, well, firstly, I suppose, mummy's got a baby growing in her tummy, and what that means to the sibling, you know, growing up and having a new baby in the house. And then once you've finished reading the book, then you can then have a conversation with the baby and encourage the sibling to take part in that conversation, or encourage the sibling to tell a little story or read a short book if they can, or sing a song. I think probably overcoming the hurdle of the first time. Just go for it. And I think even after the baby's born, some mums don't quite know what to say. But if you start when you're on your own, start when you're in the bath, and then it becomes second nature before very long. And that's what communicating with your bump is all about, is establishing that connection, that bond with the baby, which will then continue after the baby's born. There's a lot of pressure on mums to do the right thing when they're pregnant, when their babies are born. And, you know, I hope that this isn't another sort of pressure to have to, this shouldn't be an effort, basically. This should be something that you should try and incorporate naturally. And if it doesn't come naturally, then, you know, as long as you're creating a language-rich environment once the baby's born, and you're establishing a lovely bond between yourself and the baby, then don't get massively worried about not having done this, or finding that has been a difficult thing to do.